Ancient roots. The first Indonesians. The Indonesian archipelago, a vast expanse of islands between Asia and Australia, has a human story stretching back millennia. Over 40,000 years ago, the first humans arrived in this region, migrating from mainland Asia. These early settlers, known as Homo erectus, left their mark in places like Java. Successive waves of migration brought new peoples and cultures to the islands. These migrations laid the foundation for the incredible diversity that characterizes Indonesia today. Spice Islands, trade and cultural exchange. Indonesia's strategic location along vital maritime trade routes has shaped its destiny for centuries. Positioned between the Indian and Pacific Oceans, the archipelago became a crossroads for merchants and explorers. Spices, those aromatic treasures of the East, became highly sought after in distant markets. Arab, Indian, and Chinese traders sailed across the seas, drawn by the allure of these precious commodities. The spice trade brought more than just economic prosperity. It facilitated a vibrant exchange of cultures and beliefs. The magnificent Borobudur Temple stands as an enduring symbol of this cultural fusion. Kingdoms of faith: Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam. By the early centuries CE, powerful kingdoms emerged in Indonesia. The Srivijaya Empire rose to prominence through maritime trade. In Java, the Mataram Kingdom flourished, known for its impressive temples. The arrival of Islam in the 13th century marked another turning point. Brought by traders, Islam gradually gained a foothold in coastal communities. By the 16th century, Islam had become the dominant religion in Indonesia. Colonial ambitions, European arrival and domination. The dawn of the 16th century brought European powers to Indonesia's shores, driven by the insatiable appetite for spices and the promise of new trade routes to the east. The Portuguese were the first to arrive, establishing a presence in Malacca in 1511. Their goal was to control the spice trade, and they soon found themselves locked in competition with other European powers. The Spanish, Dutch, and English all sought to establish their dominance in the region, leading to intense rivalry and conflict. The Dutch emerged as the dominant force in the 17th century, employing ruthless tactics to control the spice trade. They formed the Dutch East India Company, a powerful trading corporation granted a monopoly over Indonesian spices. The VOC's ambition extended beyond trade. They sought to control territory and resources, gradually expanding their influence across the archipelago. This marked the beginning of centuries of colonial rule, a period that would profoundly shape Indonesia's destiny and leave an enduring legacy on its people. Section 5. The Dutch East India Company. Exploitation and legacy. The Dutch East India Company, driven by profit and empowered by a ruthless monopoly, embarked on a systematic exploitation of Indonesia's resources and people. They established plantations to cultivate cash crops like coffee, sugar, and indigo, forcing local farmers to abandon their traditional crops and labour under harsh conditions. The VOC's pursuit of profit came at a heavy cost, leading to widespread poverty, famine, and the suppression of local cultures. The Dutch presence was not limited to economic exploitation. They imposed their language, culture, and administrative systems on the archipelago. They established a system of colonial governance, dividing the archipelago into administrative regions and appointing Dutch officials to rule over them. This system, designed to maintain control and extract resources, sowed the seeds of resentment and resistance among the Indonesian people. Despite the hardships they endured, Indonesians never fully accepted Dutch rule, their spirit of independence simmering beneath the surface, waiting for the opportunity to ignite. Section 6. Rise of Nationalism, Seeds of Independence. The 20th century witnessed the awakening of Indonesian nationalism, a powerful force that would ultimately lead to the country's independence. The seeds of this movement were sown during the long years of Dutch colonial rule, as Indonesians chafed under foreign domination and yearned for self-determination. Education played a crucial role in fostering nationalist sentiment. A new generation of Indonesian intellectuals, educated in Western schools, began to question the legitimacy of colonial rule and advocate for independence. Organizations like Budi Utomo, founded in 1908, emerged to promote Indonesian culture and identity. These early nationalist groups, while initially focused on social and cultural reforms, gradually adopted more explicitly political goals. The rise of mass media, particularly newspapers and magazines, provided a platform for nationalist ideas to spread among the population. The Dutch, alarmed by this growing movement, responded with repression, seeking to silence dissent and maintain their grip on power. However, the nationalist spirit, once ignited, proved impossible to extinguish. Section 7. Struggle for Freedom. Sukarno, Hatta, and Revolution. The struggle for Indonesian independence intensified in the aftermath of World War II. The Japanese occupation of Indonesia during the war, while brutal, had inadvertently weakened Dutch colonial rule and provided an opportunity for nationalists to mobilize. Two figures emerged as leaders of the independence movement. Sukarno, a charismatic orator who had been imprisoned by the Dutch for his nationalist activities, and Muhammad Hatta, a pragmatic economist who shared Sukarno's vision for a free Indonesia. On August 17, 1945, just days after Japan's surrender, Sukarno and Hatta proclaimed Indonesia's independence, a declaration met with jubilation across the archipelago. However, the Dutch, unwilling to relinquish their colony, fought back, leading to a bloody 4-year struggle for independence. Indonesian revolutionaries, poorly armed but determined, waged a guerrilla war against Dutch forces. International pressure eventually forced the Dutch to recognize Indonesian independence in December 1949, marking the birth of a new nation. Section 8. Forging a Nation, Post-Independence Challenges. The road to building a nation after centuries of colonial rule proved to be fraught with challenges. Indonesia, a diverse archipelago of over 17,000 islands, faced the daunting task of forging a national identity and overcoming deep-seated divisions. Political instability plagued the early years of independence, as different factions vied for power. Sukarno, elected as Indonesia's first president, adopted a policy of guided democracy, concentrating power in his hands and suppressing dissent. Economic disparities and regional grievances fueled unrest, leading to separatist movements in regions like Aceh and Papua. The Indonesian Communist Party, or PKI, capitalizing on these tensions, gained influence, alarming the military and anti-communist elements within the government. In 1965, a coup attempt blamed on the PKI led to a brutal crackdown, resulting in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of suspected communists and sympathizers. This marked a dark chapter in Indonesia's history, leaving deep scars on the nation's psyche. Section 9. Indonesia Today: Democracy and the Future. The 1965 coup led to General Suharto's authoritarian rule for over 3 decades. Student protests and an economic crisis in the late 90s forced Suharto to resign, leading to democracy. Since then, Indonesia has made remarkable progress in consolidating its democracy. However, corruption, poverty, and religious intolerance continue to test its democratic institutions. Despite challenges, Indonesia stands as the world's third-largest democracy, a testament to its people's resilience.